go.
Okay, Sam Lodge, stroke 8, nose 5, low, break right.
Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're going to be looking at the radar of the F-16 Viper. We're going to have an in-depth look at azimuths and bars and all that nice stuff. Keep in mind that this tutorial or guide for the radar of the F-16 only applies to what we have currently available in DCS. Okay, we're just looking at the early access features and we're going to go from there. Before we start the video, guys, if you enjoy these tutorials and these fights and matchups that we do on this channel, consider supporting Wild Weasel, as they sponsor the channel, they sponsor the DCS server, they make these tutorials and things of this nature possible. So supporting them goes a long way to supporting the channel, and it's also a nice way to get yourself something nice in the process. They're always putting up new things, new shirts, mugs, stickers, mouse pads, you name it, it's on that site, all aviation related gear. Always cool stuff in there, so check it out, and don't forget to use the code GROWLING10 for 10% off your order. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get started with this video. Alright guys, so let's get started here. We're going to start off with something really simple. We're going to start off with radar range. Okay, let's go have a look in the F-16 cockpit. Okay, so when we're looking at range in the radar screen, this is one of the most simple functions available in the radar, so we're just going to pump through it really quickly. The range is controlled right here, it's displayed right here. You can go down to 10, I believe, yeah, 5, and then right up to 10, 20, 40, 80, and 160. And it's very simple, that's all it is. Alright, the only thing I want to mention with the range is don't make the mistake of thinking that when you have the radar set at 80 miles that the radar is only sending the radiation out to 80 miles. The radiation out of the tip of your aircraft is infinite. It goes on forever. The only thing that it's showing you here when you say 80 is how much is this screen displaying to you in terms of range. Okay, this is 160, you can see the bandits come down. 80, 40, they fall right off the scope because they're up here somewhere. Okay, and just know that these green lines are also dividers of the range. So if this is 80, 80 is going to be up here. A bandit that shows up here is going to be 80 miles away from you. And then we have 60, 40, and 20. Okay, and that just divides equally whatever range that you put it at. Okay. Alright, so yeah, so at 40, it's going to be 40 up here, 30, 20, 10. Okay, you just divide by 4, essentially, based on whatever number you've chosen. Alright, so that's a radar range. That's very simple. Let's move on to the next topic. The next topic we're going to be looking at is radar azimuth. The pilot can control the azimuth by adjusting the scan volume. The azimuth scans depending on the mode, and it can scan between plus minus 60 degrees, 30 degrees, plus minus 25, 20, or 10. Alright, and please note that the 25 degree option for the azimuth, or 3-bar scan, is exclusive to track while scan and dual target SAM modes. And these two modes, TWS and dual target, are not available in the F-16 currently. So as we cycle through the azimuths in the radar, you're going to see that we're missing the 25 degree. We only have 60, 30, 20, and 10. So that's why you're not going to see it, and that's why we're not going to discuss it here today. There's no point in weighing you down with a bunch of information that isn't applicable to you as of right now. As that stuff gets implemented, we'll talk about it in the future. Okay, let's go have a look in the cockpit. Alright, so the azimuths are displayed over here. You can see that right now we're at 6, which is 60 degrees. And what we're going to do is go ahead and change it. So now you have 30 degrees and you have 10 degrees. These blue bars indicate the degrees, and you're going to divide it right down the middle, and it's 10 degrees on each side, okay, of the middle, so from where your nose is. And so we look at 60, you go right down the middle, and it's 60 degrees to one side, 60 degrees to the other, so that's a total of 120 degrees left to right. Okay, and also note that you can actually move the 10 degrees by simply moving the cursor. Okay, that's going to move that around. Same thing with 30 degrees. You can see that as I move the cursor over, I can change the concentration of where the radar is looking. And at 60 degrees, you can see, look at this, if I want to switch from 60 to 30 real quick, I don't have to come down here and necessarily click this button. I can simply push the cursor to the one side and it creates 30 degrees. You see that? It just jumped to 30. Okay, if I want to put it back to 60, I just hit it off that again and it goes back to 60. All right, or I can do it alternatively on this side, 30 degrees, hit it back again, we're at 60. All right, let's go have a look at a quick little visual representation of this that I've created. In our visualization here, notice how we're missing the 20 and 25 degrees. Again, that's not implemented just yet. We have 10, 30, and 60. So you can see that with the 10 degrees, again, it's right down the middle, and 10 degrees to each side. Okay, so we have a very quick 10 degrees, we have 30 degrees, and we have 60 degrees. And the way you want to use this is if you don't know, if you're just flying hoping to find a bandit somewhere somehow, you want to be in the 60 degrees so you can cover the largest portion of the sky, right? If you know where to look for the bandit, you maybe want to be in the 30 or the 10 degree. And the way that you would know that is if you got a brawl call from AWACS, right? AWACS maybe vectored you onto a bandit and you knew where in the sky to look for him. You might go to 30 degrees or 10 degrees and see if you can pick him up quickly. And the reason for that is because the radar doesn't have to spend the extra time to scan through a full 60 degrees, and you got to wait for that whole scan to finish. If you put it on 10 or 30, it's much quicker, right? It's just bounce, bounce, bounce. You don't have to go the full 60. Why would you look off to the side if you know the bandit's not over here? You're looking for one guy specifically in front of you. Okay, so this is our little representation of the azimuths and how it looks, all right? Now that we've got the azimuth all figured out, let's move on to radar elevation scan volume, also known as bars. All right, radar elevation scan volume. It's very important that we emphasize volume, and we'll see why a little bit later on in the video. But radar elevation scan volume is controlled by specifying the bar scan. You can choose between 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, and 4 bar. And please note once again that 3 bar or 25 degree azimuth scans are only available in track while scan and dual target scan modes. Okay, so as we do this video and we look at the F-16 radar, you're going to notice that we don't have a 3 bar option yet. Once again, this is because these modes are not yet available in the F-16 early access. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the cockpit, have a look at some bars. All right, so looking at bars over here, this is where they're going to be displayed, 4B, so this means I'm at bars. Look at these numbers, okay, and we're going to talk about these numbers a little bit more in depth in a couple minutes, but right now notice that it's at 52 and 17. So what this means is that, and I'm at 40 miles, let's push it out to 80 just to make this a little bit simpler. We're going to come right down here, so right at 40 miles, okay, we talked about this is 80, 60, 40 miles, okay. At 40 miles, at 4 bars, I can see Angel 63 at the highest point and Angel 6 at the lowest point on 4 bars. Notice how when I switch it to 1 bar, this becomes a much smaller surface area of the sky that I can look at. We have Angels 34 and Angels 34. I can't see anything above that or below that, all right? And then we have 2 bars. So 44 Angels maximum and 25 Angels minimum. All right, anything above or below these altitudes I will not see at 40 miles, okay? It's important to note that these numbers are going to change as I move the cursor. All right, they're going to deviate further away from each other. This one's going to get higher and this one's going to get lower, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, okay? But just notice how that's true. 26 20, or sorry, 46 22, we'll go right up. 49 20, they're just going to deviate further and further apart, and we'll talk about that. For right now, let's go look at some visualizations of these bars and see if we can make sense of those. All right, so this is a little visualization of the 1 bar, 2 bar, 4 bar. Again, notice we don't have the 3rd bar because it's not implemented yet. This is a very oversimplified explanation. We'll get into a little bit more detail in a couple of minutes, but just for those who want a simple understanding of the bars, this is what it is. 1 bar is going to scan a very small slice of the sky in front of you. 2 bars is going to be a little bit larger. It's going to be 2 of these put together. for simplicity's sake. And then 4 bars is going to be, as you can see, a very fat chunk of the sky that you're going to be looking at. As we talked about, this is the reason why that you want to use 4 bars if you're searching and just looking for anything, versus 2 bars or 1 bar if you know where to look, right? If you know what chunk of the sky you need to look at, you want to be in 1 or 2 bars so you're not wasting time scanning through 4 bars. All right. Obviously 4 bars is going to take longer to scan than 2 bars and 1 bar. And again, we'll talk about that in more detail. Notice how as this deviates out, it gets larger. Okay, this is one of the reasons why the cursor numbers change. Okay, we'll talk about that again in more detail. This is a simple representation of the bars. Okay, let's move on to a slightly more detailed explanation now. Alright, so a more detailed look at what 1 bar means. In a 1 bar scan, so this is your aircraft you're looking out right in front of you, and the radar elevation scan volume, once again this is very important, and you'll see why in a second, is controlled by specifying the bar scan. Alright, so what that's saying is that you can control the volume of the sky that you're looking at by changing the number of bars that you're scanning through. The beam at the antenna normally that the antenna normally emits is not able to scan more than 4.9 degrees in the vertical. If the radar just moves from left to right and back, it is considered 1 bar, and it will scan just that single 4.9 degree slice of airspace. So what that means is that going from the beam going from left to right and from right to left is considered 1 bar. All right, just this little movement left to right, this is 1 bar, and this 1 bar is 4.9 degrees of the sky. So it's a very, very small chunk of the sky. All right, that's all it's saying. And you can see why it's quick, right? It's just left to right. It's very, very quick. All right, this is an explanation of 1 bar. Let's go ahead and have a look at 2 bars now. Now at 2 bars, we can see that the pattern of scan is a little bit different. All right, on a 2 bar scan, for example, the radar scans left to right, moves down a few degrees, and scans back right to left. Because the radar antenna is pointing lower, the return scan looks at a different area of the space than the first scan. All right, so this is very simple. What it's saying is that you start here, you scan from left to right, you move down instead of moving back like 1 bar. You move down and you scan from right to left. Now obviously this is going to cover more of the sky than going just left to right at 4.9 degrees. Right? This is going to cover a fatter chunk of the sky, a nice big slice relatively compared to 1 bar. All right, so this is 2 bar. This is how it works: left to right, down, right to left, back up, repeat. All right, this is 2 bars. Let's move on to 4 bars. And here we have the 4 bars. This is obviously the most complex scan available in the F-16. A 4 bar scan covers the most area but takes the longest to complete. A 1 bar scan covers the least area but is the fastest. The 2 bar scan falls in between. You trade off some coverage for increased refresh rate of targets. Alright, so with 4 bars, it's the same principle as the 2 bar in the sense that you go from left to right, down, right to left, and then you come back down and you go left to right, down, right to left, back to the top, and you repeat. And you just scan like this. And you can see why this is a rather large portion of the sky in front of you. Okay, you're covering a whole lot of it. What this text is saying is that 4 bars, because of all of this, it's going to take longer to scan through all of this. All right. And 1 bar is much faster, as we talked about, and 2 bars is right in between. That's what this text is saying. If you know where to look for your target, say you've been given it by AWACS and you know that he's at somewhere between angels 20 and 25, you're not going to use the 4 bar scan. Alright, it's going to take you too long to find the guy. I mean, you can if you have a lot of distance and you got time, but if you're close and you're kind of in a rush to find this guy, you're not going to wait for a 4 bar scan to go through all of this and hope that you find him. What you're going to do is probably go to a 2 bar, right? And you're just going to scan through 2 bars. You're going to point your radar and we'll talk about how to point your radar in a bit. You're going to point it at angles 20 and 25 with those cursors that we talked about. You're going to make sure your highest elevation is 25, the lowest is 20, or somewhere in between there, and you're going to scan between 2 bars because it's faster than 4 bars, and you're going to find your target a lot quicker if you do that. Okay, so this is what you would use 4 bars just to scan a general area in front of you, hope you find something. Use lower bars because they're faster if you already know where to look for your target. Okay, so now we're back in the F-16 cockpit. Let's have a look at this 1 bar thing again, 2 bar, 4 bar thing, and see if we can make a little bit more sense of it. Currently we're in 1 bar, and if you remember, 1 bar was the left to right, left to right. You can see that the maximum altitude is 34 and the minimum is 34, and that was because we weren't scanning down. If you remember, it was simply a 4.9 degrees. Now, one thing I have noticed is that as you put this out there, it should deviate slightly because it's 4.9 degrees. This should go up to 35. This should come down to 33, but it's currently not doing that. Most likely it's not modeled. The 1 bar is not modeled like that. Maybe they'll do it later. I'm not too sure. The other thing to talk about with this little bar thing is look at this little caret here. This little caret is not moving, and the reason it's not moving, you'll see it move in the other bars, is because, as we talked about, it's just left to right, left to right. There's no moving down with this caret in 1 bar. All right, let's bring the cursor back to the middle, and now let's go to 2 bars. At 2 bars, you can see that we're scanning a different area of the sky, a larger area, if you will. We're up to an angels 43 maximum and angels 26 minimum. All right, and look at this little bar. It's scanning through the 2 bars now. This is 2, 1, 2, 1. And if you remember the pattern of the 2 bar, it was left to right, down, right to left, repeat. All right, it's just going to keep repeating that. That's what this is indicating to you. It's in the 1st bar, it's in the 2nd bar. It's in the 1st bar, it's in the 2nd bar. And you're scanning more of the sky, all right? Notice how, once again, as I move it up in the range, the numbers will deviate from each other in an inverse correlation. So this is 46, it'll go higher, it'll move towards 50. This is 23, it'll move slightly down to closer to 20, and then 15, and blah, 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 as I increase the range. And we will talk about why that happens. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but just notice that that's a functionality of it. Sorry about that. Okay, so now let's look at 4 bars. This is the 4 bar scan. We have 65 and 40. Notice how it's a much larger portion of the sky. Maximum angels 65 down to a minimum of angels 4. Once again, notice the deviation. The minus sign that you saw there, that indicates that it's bouncing off the ground. Okay, so we're looking at the ground up to angel 69. The more I push it out, the more this negative number will increase, and the more the 69 will get closer to 70, 80, 90, etc. All right, look at this little caret. Notice how it has to scan through 4 bars. Remember the 4 bars? It was the left to right, back, and it's like this little loop. It takes a very long time to scan through 4 bars, as we can see here. Okay, look at this little caret. 1, 2 bar, 3rd bar, 4th bar, back to the 1st bar, 2nd bar, 3rd bar, 4th bar, back to the 1st bar, and it's going to repeat this over and over again through the 4 bars. This is why the 4 bar scan takes a very long time. Okay, alright, so I hope that we have a better understanding of the bars now. Very quickly, let's go talk about this little thing that I was talking about with the cursor, and how the ranges are inversely related and how they increase and decrease as you increase the range. We'll see why that is in a second. Let's go have a look at this little chart that I made. So having a look at this little graphic that we've made here, this is obviously not to scale and very oversimplified. All right. The other thing is that the scan of the F-16 is not so much a rectangle as it is a cone. Okay, but this is just to get our point across. This will be a little bit simpler to understand. Okay, so this green thing represents the area in front that the F-16 is looking at. All right, these are our ranges: 20, 40, and 80 miles. Okay, and These little green things, or sorry, yellow things, they represent the maximum and minimum altitudes that we saw on the cursor. As we moved the cursor increasing in range, so we're going from 20 to 40 miles, as we push the cursor out, we were getting higher numbers at the maximum and lower numbers at the minimum. And you can see why, because this cone expands as it goes out, all right, as it comes out of the nose. Obviously at the nose it's the closest point together, so your numbers are going to be much closer at the reduced ranges. Okay, so it's 10 and 9 for example. As you push the cursor out to 40 miles, you're going to get deviating numbers. The maximum altitude will increase, so you'll go from 10 to 15 for example. Not exactly, I'm just trying to make the point that it increases. And your lower altitude will change from 9 to 6. As you increase the range further, you move the cursor further in range, your maximum altitude will change to 30 and your minimum will change to 2. So you can see that as this cone expands, you're covering more of a higher altitude and more of a lower altitude. Okay, so this is the reason why as you increase the cursor, the numbers deviate. The high altitude gets larger and the low altitude gets smaller. This is the reason why. Okay, so one of the last things we're going to talk about is the antenna elevation caret. The antenna elevation is indicated by the position of the horizontal T-shaped antenna elevation caret along the left edge of the MFD. Let's go have a look at that and we'll talk about exactly what that means. So we previously talked about how to increase the volume of the sky you were looking at with these bars, right? I think we bashed that in pretty hard. Everybody should have a decent understanding of bars at this point. So again, if I wanted to go to 1 bar, I cover a small space. If I go to 4 bars, I cover a large space. But there has to be another way, because let's say that I want to be at 2 bars, but I want to look lower than Angel's 23, but I want a quick scan at the same time. I don't want to wait for 4 bars. I want 2 bars, but I want to look lower than Angel's 23 at, I don't know, like 50 miles. That's what this is. Okay, how do I do that? That's what this is. This is not only an indicator, this is the antenna elevation caret. All right here. Not only does it indicate what bar the aircraft is scanning through, it actually tells you an elevation of where the radar is at. Okay, now watch as I push it down. I can push it down all the way. What this is essentially doing is the dish and the nose of the aircraft, that is the radar, I'm pointing the dish down, and I can point the dish up and I can point the dish down. All right, and you can see that these numbers are changing as well. I'm scanning lower parts of the sky. So let's say I was flying like this. This was my caret where I had it at, and I wanted 2 bars, but I wanted to scan below 12. What I would do is simply decrease my antenna. I would push it down, and as I push it down, you can see I can see below Angel's 12 now. I can push it further and further and further. So now I can scan exactly what part of the sky I want at 2 bars, which is quick. I don't have to go through 4 bars just to scan lower. Then I can do that for everything, right? I can put that at 20 miles. Let's say I got a call that there's a bandit at 20 miles in front of me and he's at Angel's 5. Well, if I come down to 20 miles, you can see that I can't find him. But at 20 miles, like, that's a close bandit, right? I don't want to wait for 4 bars of a scan to find this guy. What I'm going to do is push this, and I need to go to Angel's 5. I'm currently not looking at Angel's 5. I need to decrease the antenna. I'm going to push it down until Angel's 5 is within that range right there. This is fine. Angel's 5 is in between 2 and 11. Okay, so the bandit would be showing up here quickly through a 2-bar scan. Okay, so that's what the elevation caret is all about. So at this point we have a pretty good understanding of how to use the radar in the F-16, at least what's available to us at the current state in early access of the F-16. There's several other modes. They're not there yet though. The one thing I want to talk about a little bit is tie it all together, and we're going to do that. In order to do that, we have to talk about SAM mode, or situational awareness mode. And SAM offers more significant operational advantages compared to the other radar modes. One of its main advantages lies in its usefulness in sorting long-range targets. In addition, SAM provides a reduced chance of being detected or considered a threat, especially when compared to STT. This is single target track. Using SAM reduces the time that the radar antenna is directly pointed at the enemy aircraft. Therefore, the probability of revealing own ship position or intent to the enemy may be reduced. So SAM mode, we're going to have a look at it here, but essentially when you lock a target in SAM mode, it's called a soft lock, okay? And the bandit should not be receiving a like a tracking notification. It should not know that he's being locked if you have him soft locked in SAM. That's what this little paragraph is trying to say here. That's why you're not an increased threat, because the bandit doesn't know that he's been locked up. It's very similar to TWS, but also very different in several ways. But it's similar in the sense that you can have a bandit locked up, but he won't necessarily know he's locked up. I've done some testing in the F-16. Currently, when you put a bandit into SAM lock or soft lock in the SAM mode, it still gets an STT notification. Okay, it still gets a notification, which is not supposed to happen. That's the whole point of SAM mode. I'm sure that hasn't been modeled yet and will be down the road, but currently that's not the case. All right, just so we're aware of that. Okay, let's go have a more detailed look at SAM mode and tie all the concepts that we've learned so far together. Okay, so let's go ahead and tie some of these concepts together now. Let's pretend that I've been vectored in by AWACS onto some bandits. They are about 40 miles in front of me at Angels 30. All right, and I want to find these guys. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and switch over to air-to-air mode. You get this nice little circle. You can also switch the AIM-120s down here if you're carrying Sidewinders. I'm not, so the aircraft automatically just went to AMRAMs. You can also see down here it's displaying 4 MRM. These are 4 medium-ranged missiles. Alright, so what we're going to do is come down to the radar screen, and we're going to apply the knowledge that we have learned. Okay, so we can see that right now I'm in a 4-bar scan at 60-degree azimuth scan, so that's 60 to one side, 60 to the other. So I'm covering about 120 degrees at 4 bars. So in this configuration, I'm covering the maximum amount of space that the F-16 can scan. Okay, and if you look at my range, I'm at 40 miles, and I'm scanning at a maximum. This is about 40, 30, 20. So this is about 35 miles in front of me. And I'm scanning at a maximum of Angels 22, and then I'm shooting the bottom half of the radar right into the ground. Okay, and as we talked about, the targets are around Angels 30, so I'm not going to see them here. What I'm going to do is push the radar out to 80, because they're about 40-45 miles. So I'm going to throw it out to 80. This little wedding cake thing you see, this indicates a steer point or a waypoint, essentially. And what we're going to do here is, the targets were about 40 miles in front, so we're going to put it right around 40. That's going to be in the middle, because we talked about 80 is up here. This is 60 now because we've changed the range. 80, 60, 40, 20, and right in front of your nose at 0. And again, we're scanning Angels 20 minus 39. So I'm going to push, and because I can't increase the volume because I'm already at the maximum 4 bars, and ideally I want to be at 2 bars because I kind of know where I'm looking, but we're just going to stay with 4 bars for now. I'm going to push the radar antenna up so I can see higher up than Angels 20. I'm going to push this up. You can see, there we go, Angels 37 minus 20. Targets should be showing up any minute now on here. Because we're 4 bars, it took some time. Remember we talked about how 4 bars takes a little bit of time to find those targets. What I'm going to do is put us down to 2 bars. Notice how right now we're at 4 bars and these bandits fade a little bit, because it's as it goes through the bars where they are, it's going through a massive chunk of the sky. It's going from 0 to Angels 37. That's a very large portion of the sky, and as it scans through those bars, the time it takes to do that, these targets actually fade. Okay, so I'm just going to go to 2 bars, and you can see at 2 bars I'm still too low in the angels. These guys are going to fade away, so we're just going to punch it back up. See, they're gone. We're going to punch it back up so we can see at least angels 30, just a little bit higher just to be safe. There's 33 and 14. There's our bandits again. Alright, so we got these guys. At 60 range scan, I also don't need to be at 60, right? I generally, maybe the AWACS had given me a bearing so I would know where to look. I could actually put that down to 10, see, because I know where to look for them. Notice how I can move this. As I move it here, that means the radar is no longer looking at those bandits, and they should fade off the screen now. There they go. You see them go? There it is. If I want to pick them up again, I'm just going to put it over, and they're going to come up again. Alright, so now I'm going to put one of these guys into SAM lock or a soft lock in SAM mode. Before I do that, I'm actually going to change our azimuth back to 6 or 60 degrees because I want you to see what happens when I put him into SAM. When I want to put a guy into SAM mode, I have to push TMS up. Okay, TMS up means this. Or sorry, let me just put it exactly on the bandit here. TMS up. And so now we are in SAM mode. Okay, notice how the radar has changed to a 10 degree. Okay, instead of 60, it made itself into 20 degrees. So the radar has actually concentrated where it's looking right onto that bandit. And this is why you technically you haven't locked him, but with TMS up, you have put him into SAM mode. TMS is target management switch. That's the bind you're looking for. You've kind of focused the radar on him, but you haven't really locked him up. In this mode, that bandit should not be receiving a notification that he has been locked up. However, currently in DCS, he is. So just be wary of that. In this mode, you can fire an amram at him, and the amram will not give him a launch notification until it goes pitbull. Okay, so it's very similar to TWS in that sense. However, if you break lock in SAM mode, if that AMRAM has been launched in SAM mode and you break lock, that AMRAM essentially goes into Mad Dog mode, which means it will find the first thing it sees and it will try to kill it. That could very well be a friendly. Okay, so you got to be careful with how you employ these things. The next mode that we can use here is, so I've already TMS up one time to get into SAM mode. I'm going to press TMS up again. And what that's going to do is take me into single target track mode. So you can see the other bandits are gone off the screen. I'm concentrating on my one guy. This is the point at which he should be getting an STT notification. All right. Again, he shouldn't be getting it in SAM, but he is. STT, he should be getting it, and he is. Okay, so that there's a little bit of discrepancy in the way that it's modeled as of right now. Again, in this mode, I can fire the AMRAM, and it should hit him. Okay, and if you want to unlock a target, it's actually TMS down. It should unlock the target. It'll take you back to SAM mode, and then TMS down again will unlock the target. Okay, so TMS up for SAM lock, TMS up 2 times for STT, TMS down to go back to SAM mode, and then TMS down again to just unlock the guy. Okay, and so this is how we're going to employ all of these things. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them in SAM mode, and we're just going to go ahead and fire this missile at him. I'm nowhere within range, obviously. I'm way far. And notice how you need to have Master Arm on, obviously. This is not going to hit him in a million years, but I'm just going to release that AMRAM. There it goes. Okay. And you can see that that AMRAM was tracking. It was moving. So it's heading towards the target. It will never reach the target. Doesn't have enough energy. But that's how you do it. Okay, guys. So this is going to be the tutorial for the F-16 radar in what's available to us as of right now. As more features come out, I'll talk about those. We'll get into detail with all of those. Just want to say a special thank you shout out and thank you to Max Waldorf for his help in creating this tutorial. He's very big on BMS, so he knows the F-16 systems very well, and he was integral to creating this tutorial. So big thank you to him. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it helpful, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.